The axe fell on the Newcastle shipbuilder just before Christmas. The Commonwealth Bank pulled the plug on the business with reported outstanding debts of $25 million. The bank is exposed to the tune of $15 million. The receivers, appointed by the bank, say the company cannot trade out of difficulty and have put the yard on the market. They're anxious to find a buyer who'll carry on the activity of shipbuilding and keep the valuable assets together.
It is our intention at this stage to attempt to sell it as a going concern, and we'll be placing advertisements which I hope will commence this Friday for the sale of the company's assets.
At a mass meeting early this morning, the shipyard's 450 employees were told ANL will pay their wages for the next 7 days. ANL, which owns the 8,000-tonne carrier Sea Road Tamar, now under construction, will lease the yard for 4 months and finish the job. Just how many of the existing workforce will be needed by ANL won't be known until meetings with the trade unions are held in the next 2 days. Carrington Slipway's Managing Director Don Laverick is bitterly disappointed at the bank's decision not to back his company. He puts the blame squarely on the failure of the company's defence contracts. Could this have been avoided in any way?
Not once we were involved in the frigate project and Wartsilla Marine went into receivership and the Navy postponed the minehunter contract, no.
All those factors led to the demise?
Any one on themselves we could have survived, but not the three of them all rolled together.
The Sabo's national titles are being sailed at Sunshine at the western end of the lake. It's the biggest gathering of the class for years, with more than 100 boats competing. They've come from as far north as Cairns and south to Tasmania. The little boats have a timeless design, but production techniques have moved from do-it-yourself plywood jobs to slick fiberglass models costing around $3,000. The boats hold their appeal for sailors of all ages.
They got a sail and they go.
What's the main attraction?
I don't know really, I think it's just the joy of it.
It's fun and it's kind of easy.
The best junior training boat you can get. I wish I was the same age again now, because the best years I had were in Sabos.
The Queenslanders are serious contenders with a title to defend, but local boats are out to make sure it's not all plain sailing. Competition continues until Sunday.
The firestorm which surrounded and nearly destroyed the villages of Neath and Kersley was the culmination of weeks of anticipation as firefighters prepared for a bad season. But the Forestry Commission says those fires need never have happened. The Commission believes they, along with many others, were deliberately lit. Acting Regional Forester John Reynolds says the hunter is enjoying a brief respite today. Small fires are burning at Bulladila, Pacolban State Forest and Strickland State Forest near Wyong, but a moisture-laden easterly is helping to subdue them. He expects a return of the furnace-like conditions of last week within days, and the return of those who deliberately light fires.
At least 78% has been identified as incendiarism, and that means that the fire was obviously lit, but we don't know why. And probably another 21% we would estimate to be rural burning off.
The coalfields fires were among 57 in the Hunter this season, far less than last year's total, but more severe than anything in the past few years, and there's still months of high fire danger to go. John Reynolds has little doubt that those fires were deliberately lit, along with others.
After the fire was all put out and people went home, we had, on a day of total fire ban and extreme fire danger, we had a number of fires lit up around the back of Cessnock, on the other side of the Cessnock Road, and nearly the whole same thing nearly happened again. If it hadn't been for a weather change, a front that came through that killed the fire later in the evening, more houses could have been lost.
That would seem to be the case in the seat of Port Stephens, held narrowly by Labor member Bob Martin. He now loses the traditional Labor areas of Stockton and Mayfield and gains parts of Bulahdelah and Raymond Terrace North. Maitland also loses a Labor stronghold in the form of Curry, gaining rural areas around Bulahdelah. Cessnock, now a Liberal seat held by Bob Roberts, loses the Labor town of Weston and picks up Mudgee and Turon. On the other hand, Waratah would appear consolidated as a Labor seat for John Price, as it gains both Curry and Weston. The boundaries of Charlestown have been given a novel change. Dudley is divided down the middle, with the southern half going to Swansea. On the other hand, Charlestown picks up some areas of Belmont from Swansea. Sitting Labor member Richard Fay says the changes are nothing to slash wrists about.
The backyard barbie, it's a way of Australian life, but each summer fire brigades and ambulance officers find themselves at more than their fair share of accidents resulting from a barbecue that went wrong.
I guess we have them every second Sunday and we get a bit complacent, and when there is a problem, that's when accidents can happen.
Mishaps with barbies, whether they be gas, electric or wood, generally happen during the lighting, but according to Newcastle Fire Brigade District Officer Keith King, they can be avoided.
You should have the cylinder and the barbecue checked regularly and check the hoses, make sure they're not perished and the fittings are attached properly. When actually lighting the barbecue, it should be lit immediately after turning on, and if it doesn't light straight away, the gas should be turned off and then allowed to dissipate for a short time until it's tried again.
With wood fires, Mr King warns safety has to be put before speed.
And only light it by natural means using paper or kindling, never ever use like a flammable liquid as petrol, for instance. We have a lot of problems with people doing that, and people have suffered horrific burns as a consequence.
As for total fire bans such as today, solid fuel barbecues are out, but gas and electric are permitted as long as some simple guidelines are followed.
There must be a responsible adult in attendance. You must have a hose available with a water supply. There'll be no flammable material within 3 metres of the barbecue, and also it's restricted to 20 metres from your private residence or in a council approved area. In other words, they're restricting you to your backyard or to a council area where there's already barbecues provided.
fruits of yesterday's raid were this morning languishing in the police cells at Morisset Station. 8 thriving cannabis plants, probably about 5 months old, plus a good-sized quantity of graded seeds and cannabis leaf were found. Their size and quality indication they'd been carefully nurtured. Acting on information received, police yesterday afternoon went to a house in Fishing Point Road at Mirrabooka. No one was home at the time, but they quickly located a greenhouse at the rear of the property. A closer examination soon established this was no slap-happy backyard operation.
Entry to the greenhouse was restricted by steel reinforcing and plastic at the sides, and had a drip water system which could be operated manually from another area. They had tin situated at the back of the greenhouse so neighbours couldn't see through the paling fence, and thick plastic lining the greenhouse itself as well so no one could see inside.
With so much care being taken, Senior Constable Dave Swilk says it's unlikely the cannabis was just for personal use.
Our information has indicated they may have been for a commercial purpose.
Late this afternoon, police arrested a 36-year-old man at the premises. He's being questioned and is expected to be charged later tonight.
The Newcastle Knights have been back at training for 9 weeks, cycling, pumping and running their way into fitness for another season of body bruising.
We had a black butt run last Saturday, a Christmas present, and everyone performed very well. We had quite a number, I think about 14 players exceeding their personal bests.
The temperature may be steamy here in Newcastle, but at Mount Isa on the 26th of January, it should be boiling.
It's going to be played at night, and I don't know what that means. I think it probably means it'll cool a little bit cooler than probably middle of the day, but it will be hot, yeah.
Coach McMahon has chosen a squad of 18 with a sprinkling of established players, plus a list of young hopefuls who have impressed with their training. For players like former Parramatta eel Sean Kelly and local junior Brad Godden, a good game against the North Queensland rep side will keep them high on first-grade selection lists. The Knights play Illawarra on February 2nd at the ISC, with the first Winfield Cup game also at home on the 15th, 16th or 17th of March.
From the moment they sat down this morning, it was a grim and uncompromising conversation. Secretary Baker and Foreign Minister Aziz admitted there was no apparent progress toward a peaceful settlement and no new ideas were introduced by either side. Each man acknowledged that time is running out and the possibility of war appears to be growing. When it was over, each man presented his case.
Regrettably, ladies and gentlemen, I heard nothing today that in over 6 hours, I heard nothing that suggested to me any Iraqi flexibility whatsoever on complying with the United Nations Security Council resolutions.
Instead of discussing a withdrawal from Kuwait, Aziz argued that there could be no settlement of the Gulf crisis without a settlement of the Palestinian problem first. He accused the U.S. of using a double standard and not forcing Israel out of the territories it occupies.
But when it comes to the Arabs, there you raise the stick. And we are fed up with this policy of double standards.
Mr. Foreign Minister, if the war starts in the Middle East, in the Gulf, will you attack Israel?
Yes, absolutely yes.
From the moment they sat down this morning, it was a grim and uncompromising conversation. Secretary Baker and Foreign Minister Aziz admitted there was no apparent progress toward a peaceful settlement and no new ideas were introduced by either side. Each man acknowledged that time is running out and the possibility of war appears to be growing. When it was over, each man presented his case.
Regrettably, ladies and gentlemen, I heard nothing today that, in over 6 hours, I heard nothing that suggested to me any Iraqi flexibility whatsoever on complying with the United Nations Security Council resolutions. There have been too many Iraqi miscalculations.
I made it clear to him that we have not made miscalculations. We are very well aware of the situation.
I've had the opportunity of talking with President Bush this morning. He rang me about 9:45, and he expressed his disappointment as well. Importantly, he shares my hope that within the period remaining until the 15th of January, that there may be some action which produces a peaceful outcome.
Chris Lawrence should know how to handle money. For the last 6 years, he's been chasing world titles around the globe with next to none of the folding stuff in his pockets.
I operate a small windsurfing school in Gosford, which sort of, just gets me by.
So it's been a bit of a struggle in the past, has it?
Oh, it's been a struggle for probably about 6 years. So this bit with the ANZ, which has come up, has been really a lot off my mind.
Thanks to a scholarship deal with the ANZ, Chris now has the best of both worlds. He has a full-time job, but whenever the wind comes up, he's given ample time to practice his skills.
We're allowed flexible working hours, so it gives us time off to train. With me, it's great because I spend a lot of my time in Europe where the competition is, and when we come back home, we've got free time, we head back to the bank and go to work.
With that sort of security, the smart money will be on the young Central Coaster to make it 4 world titles in a row.
Aussies Julie McDonald and Donna Proctor were never troubled from the outset and staged their own private battle for the entire 800 metres. They left the opposition in their wake as they calmed through the tranquil waters of the pool. McDonald was first at touch in a time of 8 minutes 33.46 seconds, with Proctor just behind. But the girl from Newcastle is delighted with the way she's swimming.
Donna, are you happy with that?
Yeah, I'm really happy with it. I felt really strong all through the 800.
It all started way back in 1979 as the Brad Drummer Memorial, a part of the Catho Classic that still survives. The contest is open to surfers from Redhead Beach around to Catho, and the main aim of the tournament is to develop surfing in the Lake Macquarie area. And over the years, youngsters have learned a lot in competing in this fun event. Today, 16 heats were conducted in the Open Division, and 6 heats of the over 28s and 3 semi-finals of that event were held. Justin Lee is the defending champion, and he will be hard-pressed to hold on to his title. Daniel Frodsham, who surfed well in this year's Pacific Dreams Pro Junior during Surfest, started well again today, and he will be hard to toss. Tomorrow, round 2 will be held in the morning with a final at 2:30. Scott Michael started at 3-1 on in favourite and will be hard to toss in next week's final. Sunday's Child was at 16s and Patril Magic at 7s. The other major race last night was the Foster's Sire Stakes over 2,000 metres and again from the turn. Tikanawa also started in the red at 11-8 on, Take Me Easy at 9-2 and Southside Park at 25-1. In the over 28s, Ted Campbell of the host club Catherine Hill Bay was again crowned the champion after winning last year's event. This meant that Grant Brooks of Redhead was relegated to second spot, the same position as in 1990. Filling third spot in the over 28s was Mark Bell, also of the Catherine Hill Bay Club. The Open was an exciting event and Justin Lee was after his third win in as many years. But he was given a hard time by the youngest competitor at the titles, 13-year-old Christian McCall, and another seasoned surfer, Andy Brinkworth. However, experience counts for plenty, and Justin Lee was too good for the opposition and won his third Cathay Classic, with Brinkworth finishing in second place and McCall in third.
The pint-sized homegrown superstar has millions of fans all over the world, and the Newcastle bunch seem to be as faithful as any of them. Almost 100 lined the footpath outside the Civic Theatre to ensure they got the best of the 1,500 tickets on sale for Kylie's Rhythm of Love concert on the 20th of February.
How long have you been waiting here for a ticket? About 16.5, 17 hours now. It'll be 17.5 when the ticket office opens.
They braved the cool night and cold footpath and endured visits by some strange local characters.
We've had a couple of psychos come past us, a guy with a piece of rope who was telling he was into pain, and this Vietnamese con, he was a bit of a weirdo too.
But it wasn't just teeny boppers who lined up for hours.
I'm taking the grandchildren along to see it.
Do you like Kylie yourself?
Well, I think she's a wonderful little entertainer.
Is it going to be worth the wait, do you think?
Oh, my word. I'd wait a lot longer for them so they can see it.
Finally, their persistence was rewarded. The doors opened and the first lucky ticket buyers had their pick of the seats. At $33.90 a piece, it's no cheap night out. But from the looks on the faces of those with tickets in their hands, the wait and expense was all worthwhile. Hunter residents plan to add their voice to the growing national protest. At 7 tonight, there will be a vigil at the Christchurch Cathedral, and tomorrow a noon gathering will take place in the Hunter Mall. On Wednesday, the 23rd of January, Jews, Christians, Muslims and other religious groups will be invited to a multi-faith service at City Hall to help unite the Hunters' call for peace.
What happens in Newcastle and in Maitland is only, a small part of a very wide scene. Right around the nation and worldwide. There's very widespread lack of support for the war that I've encountered. We've asked people to sign petitions and very few people actually want a war. A lot of them think, what is the alternative?